Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. So big news. A new Hearthstone expansion features this guy. That's right. ILLIDAN is coming to Hearthstone. Well, he's already in Hearthstone. He's a card. Okay. He's one of the enemies when you do your tutorial, which all the noobs seem to hate. And soon enough, he will be, no, not in the battlegrounds. He will be a new class in Hearthstone. I never thought this day would happen, and I really never thought this day would happen after around the 2 or 3 year mark. Like, how could there be enough cards for a new class to ever be added to the game? But the new development team that Hearthstone has had for, a little while now, they've been pushing out some really cool new ideas, and aren't we glad now that we're playing Battlegrounds most of the time? But new expansions come out, new cards come out, and apparently new heroes coming out is on the table. So ILLIDAN is a completely new hero class you can play in the upcoming expansion. It's called Ashes of Outland, and it's got a bunch of different themes that are very much from the Outland that we know from playing World of Warcraft, or if you guys are, super avid Warcraft fans. It seems like there's quite a lot of inspiration from that. We're going to get something like, Kael'thas and Vash, different type of cards. There's going to be cards that, kind of come to life after a few turns. Some of these, notable heroes, or notable villains, that is, like Vash and Kael'thas, when they're played and then they die, they go back into your deck, and they come back really, really strong. So, cards like these, I think they mentioned that there's going to be one for each class except the Demon Hunter. The Demon Hunter is going to have its own identity, and to kind of reveal that identity, they showed off a lot of the new cards in the upcoming expansion, as well as the base cards for the Demon Hunter, ILLIDAN, the Demon Hunter class hero. So let's get started with those. First off, we have Chaos Nova. Now, I have played with most of these cards. I don't believe this is all the cards coming up in the upcoming expansion. I think they're still going to reveal a number of them in reveal season, which I also imagine is coming up pretty soon, perhaps. So, these are just, I believe, some of the cards that you'll get to play with. And I have to tell you, I have played a little bit with the Demon Hunter at the Hearthstone Summit this year, and it seems really cool. Whether it's viable in whatever meta we're going to get in the upcoming expansion, look, nobody can answer that question for you. That's something we're going to have to learn as we play the game when the time comes. But what we can do now is talk about how cool and how these cards might be used. So Chaos Nova, 4 damage to all minions. So the Demon Hunter, from my experience, not just understanding, my experience, can be played a number of different ways. The Demon Hunter hero power is get 1 attack this turn only. So it's kind of like the Druid hero power without the armor. So you might think that sucks, but the Demon Hunter hero power costs 1 mana, so it's really good at killing those small minions. And Chaos Nova kills those mid-sized minions. And as you know, that's kind of a problem. All the classes have some solution for the really big cards in the game. Classes typically need some kind of board clears for the small things, but Demon Hunters have their hero powers, but it's usually those mid-range decks that kind of slide right through both of those archetypes and do quite well in some metas. So Chaos Nova is a bit of an insurance against that. So it's a pretty good card. While it might not seem too powerful, it will surprise you because it fills in those gaps that are often missing from the tool set of the different classes in the game. Next up, we have a minion that is a huge win more. It's a 5 cost 7/4, and if your hero has attacked this turn, it's really easy to attack if you're ILLIDAN, by the way, or a Demon Hunter, that is. You deal 4 damage, anything that you want. And when you're ahead on the board, you want attack heavy stuff. When you're behind on the board, you want health heavy stuff, typically with taunt. That's kind of hard to kill. This is a really good push card. If you're playing kind of like a tempo deck, this is going to be a card that you'll very likely want to put in every version of that deck. We have Coordinated Strike, 3 cost 3/1/1 Illidari with Rush. Standalone, it is not that good. Think about it this way. Are you happy when you unleash the Hounds against 3 minions? Not that happy. This is a Demon Hunter card, so the mechanics are going to be a little bit different. You also can attack often with your hero just through your hero power, so the circumstance is a little bit different. Could be wrong about this, but it doesn't seem like that powerful of a card, but we'll have to see nevertheless. Next up, we have Satyr Overseer. It's a 3-cost 4/2, so not particularly well statted for 3, but after your hero attacks, you get to summon a 2/2 Satyr. So you get a 2/2 right away if you attack the turn that you play him. And again, that's really easy to do if you are playing a Demon Hunter. So looks possibly worse than it really is. I think it's going to be a pretty good card. And again, these are the base cards, so everyone gets to try them right away. Soul Cleave, 3-cost, 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions, but it has lifesteal. Life is going to be pretty important because if you've played like Rogue in the past, your hero power is really overpowered, really good at dominating the early game, but then when you get to the mid game and the late game, you suddenly can't use your hero power for tempo anymore. You just have to go face every turn because you can't afford to take any damage. One thing that you'll notice with Demon Hunters is that they can actually heal a lot. Now, some of those sources of healing are not going to be very good. I don't think Soul Cleave is a particularly good source of healing, but because the lifesteal is tied to the damage, it doesn't quite write the card off. So keep that in mind. It's not necessarily heal for 4 for 1 extra mana, which is not bad, by the way. It can heal for a lot more if you get some spell damage in the mix, because it's tied to the damage. Chaos Strike, give your hero 2 attack and draw a card, so not too bad. Basically, you get to take care of those more medium-sized minions. You can also use it as a cycle. You can also use it as a go face card. You can do 2 extra damage to your opponent's face. You can attack their face, draw a card. It really accomplishes the goal of fitting into just about every playstyle. New 1-drop, it's a 2/1, and the battle cry gives your hero 1 attack. So super high tempo, and it's a demon. So maybe that's good. Hulking Overfiend is one of these massive demon late game drops. Now this is not part of the base set. I'm not sure how much of these are classic or how much of these are in the upcoming expansion. Not sure about that, but there are going to be a lot of cards that are not in the basic set for Demon Hunters, and this is one of them. It's an 8-cost 5/10 with Rush, so fair stat line. It's a demon. Can be important, and after this attacks and kills a minion, it may attack again. So it's a very good board clear card, or maybe just get rid of a few mid-range minions. Flame Reaper, 7-cost 4/3, also damages the minions next to whomever your hero attacks. So it's kind of like a cleave weapon. It's a very expensive weapon, but as you can see, Demon Hunters have crazy amounts of removal options. Some of them through weapons, some of those look pretty iconic. Command the Illidari, it's 5-cost, summon 6/1/1 Illidari with Rush. Now, Hunters have a card like this with the Locusts. Now, the Locusts are beasts, which is why they're very good, but I also feel like the Locust card that Hunter has for 6, which gives you 7 Rush, often you have a minion on the board, so often it actually gives you 6 anyway, and I also feel like that card usually comes in 1 turn too late. Now, Command the Illidari literally just comes in 1 turn earlier, and I think that's a really big deal. I think this card is actually going to see some play because it's pretty powerful. Brute, 5-cost 2/6 Taunt. After this is attacked, it deals 1 damage to all enemies. That's right. It just constantly destroys your opponent's boards. All enemies also includes your opponent's face. So it might look like a card in a control deck, but actually it'll give you some time to stall if you're playing an aggro deck, and it will beat other aggro decks as well. So it's actually a bit more flexible than you think, which in my opinion turns out to be true for most of these Demon Hunter cards. 4-cost 4/4. Next demon you play cost 2 less. It is not this turn. We've seen this effect in the past on like some dragons that they made like 5 years ago or something. Now that effect is back and it's actually really relevant. It's a 4-cost 4/4, which is obviously not good to play on turn 4 for the stats, but it's not bad enough that you'll like lose the game playing it. And with that in mind, you can play a 7-drop on your next turn on turn 5 if it's a demon. And that might just be worthwhile. Naga, 3-cost 3/1. After a friendly minion dies, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. Now that can include your opponent's face, of course. Interesting. With all the tokens that are created, that might be a pretty good effect, perhaps. Blade Dance, deal damage equal to your hero's attack to 3 random enemy minions. So it's like a huge cleave effect if you're playing an attack stacking Demon Hunter. And again, more flexibility. Cards are better than they seem. Feast of Souls, draw a card for each friendly minion that died this turn. More effects that trigger off of you losing minions. Again, possibly very good. 1 cost 2/2. After your hero attacks, gain 1 attack. So if you attack and you play this, it's going to be a 1 cost 3/2 with no downside, with a potential win more effect later on. Super powerful. Consume Magic, silence an enemy minion, and Outcast, draw a card. Now I believe Outcast is a mechanic if the card is in your hand on the extreme left or on the extreme right. It would be on the extreme right if you just drew it, or if you've played cards that you've drawn since this has been in your hand. Interesting card. How consistent is the Outcast mechanic? Well, depends how much you tailor your deck to it. It's obviously not very consistent if you include tons of late game cards, but if you're playing a really late game deck, maybe you can afford to not draw. So again, more flexibility, better than they seem. Okay, 1 drop, 2/1, Death Rattle, add a 2/1 Lost Soul to your hand. So this is kind of just like constantly pushing out minions. It's going to allow Demon Hunters to play more aggressively. It's going to allow them to play just the type of aggro deck that cycles through minions with lots of different effects, on death effects even, as we've seen. And lastly, the last card we saw today is Twin Strike. Give your hero +1 attack this turn, add a 2nd slice to your hand, which I believe is the same effect, except you don't get like a 3rd slice, just 2 slices. And this works pretty well. As you've seen, there's some attack synergy. It also works pretty well because it moves cards around in your hand for a 0 cost card. So you might be able to maneuver and play this, even though it might not be the best card to play at a given time. It might allow you to, for 0, get an Outcast effect going. Now, another big thing that they're doing in the upcoming expansion is redoing the Priest class. So this is one of the new cards, Thought Steal, but it costs 2. Now, there are some new cards. Temple Enforcer costs 5. It's a 5/6 though, so that is an insane buff. Shadow Ward Ruin, this is one of the new cards. So for 4 mana, instead of 3 for the death, destroy all minions with 5 or more attack. All of them, even your own. But then maybe you just choose not to play minions with 5 attack or more. I'm not sure which cards these are going to replace, but I don't believe priests are going to have like 10 more cards than the other classes as part of their base set. So that will be interesting to see how they shape the priest class in the different side of this, on which cards we're no longer going to be able to play now that we have some of these new ones. Another one they redid, Shadow or Death. It's not 3 mana, it's 2 mana. But would you play that over Ruin? 4 mana for all 5? Well, depends on the meta. Shadow Madness costs 3. Shadow Madness is one of my all-time favorite cards in Hearthstone, and I have played it in most metas where I have played Priest, even at 4 mana. So at 3, this is a huge power boost. Shadow Madness is often better than a 2-for-1. You can usually pretty consistently get a 2-for-1 in most metas, because most metas have a lot of early game minions, and if you're playing against aggro decks, you can usually get better than a 2-for-1 because most minions in tempo, aggressive, even some mid-range decks, they have a lot of death rattles. So you get the death rattles when it dies on your side of the board. So if you're killing 2 things and getting the death rattle effect, you're getting more than a 2-for-1, but you're also getting that in tempo as well, because for 3 cost, that's insane. So huge power boost for Priest on this one. Scarlet Subjugator, this is a new card, 1 cost 2/1. Give an enemy minion -2 attack until your next turn. So it lets you crush your opponent's stuff. It's an aggressively statted card, and it's a 1-drop. Maybe Priest will finally be able to play kind of like a mid-range deck, other than the Undertaker meta like 6 years ago. Psychic Conjure, another 1-drop, more Priest early game cards. What are these? 1 cost 1/1, copy a card in your opponent's deck and add it to your hand. Not game-breaking, not amazing, but good, solid. It lets you play early game cards. It lets you not concede the board playing Priest. The downside is they don't have a lot of health, and the Priest hero power, to my knowledge, is still the same, so it doesn't accomplish that goal, but some of the other new cards do. Power Word Shield does that, but you don't get to draw a card anymore, but it costs 0. I really like this change because Power Word Shield is no longer included in just about every single priest deck. It's better in decks where you cycle cards constantly, but it's worse in most other decks, so it's good. Because if you're playing just a priest deck these days, where you're not playing like Gadsden Auctioneer Cycle, well then you have more space in your deck to create it more identity. I like that. Power Infusion, 4 cost, giving you +2/+6. There was Power Word Tentacles, I think it was called, in Old Gods. It was basically this, except it cost 5, and no one played it, except in Arena, where it was a really good card. So with Priest getting a lot of early game minions, and this costing 4 instead of 5, well, that might be pretty good. Time will tell, though. Another new one, new legendary, Natalie Celine. 8 cost, 8/1, Battlecry, destroy a minion and gain its health. Yeah, I better have a lot of health for this to be good, but maybe that's the meta that we'll run into one day. Holy Nova is redone. It is 4, which is crazy OP, but it does not hit your opponent in the face. Priests have lost this identity of doing face damage, and maybe that will clue you into what we're actually going to get for cards removed. Holy Nova only does damage to enemy minions, but it still restores to friendly characters. It will still heal you for 2, but it will not hit your opponent in the face for the Holy Nova damage. It will only hit their minions. And with that in mind, Holy Smite has changed. It is a better card in terms of board effects. It does 3 damage, but now it can only do it to a minion. Not 2 damage, 3 damage, but you can't do it to their face. And again, that kind of nerfs some of the Velen combos, but we just got a new legendary that's probably going to be in the classic set, and I don't think there's enough for all of the legendaries out there. So yeah, I think we know where that's going. Last card they showed today is a new 2-drop. It's a 2 cost 2/3, and it gives a friendly minion +2 health. This card is absolutely absurd. So Priest is getting a really big overhaul. Honestly, I think through this card, you can kind of tell what they're doing with Priest. It's a big change, and more than anything, it really goes to show how the current development team is continuously willing to break down those barriers of structure. You know, they're going to make new classes for the game, apparently. They're going to completely reshape some of the old classes. They're going to give us new play modes. It's an exciting time to play Hearthstone, and I look forward to checking some of these out. And I think we're going to get some teasers before the expansion is going to be released, but I'm not sure. I'll keep you up to date with our daily 2 videos a day right now. And thank you guys for watching them. Stay home, stay safe, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.